Imagine someone so quiet, so unproblematic, so completely invisible that nobody notices her, until one day the entire future of an empire shifts around her. That's Esther. Back then, the Persian Empire was at its peak, big, powerful, and very dramatic. King Xerxes ruled everything from India to Ethiopia, which basically means millions of people, one guy making all the decisions, and absolutely no room for mistakes. The palace was shiny, loud, political, and full of people pretending to be more important than they really were. And then there was Esther. Not shiny, not loud, not political. She grew up with her cousin Mordecai after losing her parents. Normal life, small routine, nothing special. Esther was the type of person you could pass in the hallway 10 times and never remember seeing. Quiet, polite, invisible, until the royal announcement happened. The king needed a new queen, not a job you apply for, not a job you interview for. More like a surprise you're on the list situation. Esther gets selected for the process without doing anything. It's like being invited to a job interview for a position you didn't even know existed. Then comes the preparation. 1 full year of treatments, oils, perfumes, beauty routines, and palace etiquette. All of that for one moment, a single presentation in front of the king. Some girls treat the process like a royal competition show. Esther just follows the instructions. While others try to stand out, she does the complete opposite. Quiet, respectful, chill. And ironically, that might have been the reason she stood out. When Esther finally meets the king, something unexpected happens. He likes her, instantly. Just like that, the invisible girl becomes queen of the largest empire in the world, and not because she fought for it, planned it, or dreamed of it. She simply existed in the right place at the right time, with the right personality. If this were modern life, people would say she was hired because she had no red flags. But here's the thing, no one inside the palace knows. Esther is a Jewish girl living undercover, and the calm around her is about to break. Hard. The palace may look perfect, but behind the gold walls, politics work like a ticking clock. And that clock is about to hit the moment when things stop being normal. For now, Esther is just trying to survive palace life. The rules, the silence, the expectations, the fact that one wrong move can get someone removed from the story permanently. But the story isn't done with her. Not even close. Because the future of an entire people is slowly moving toward her, and she has no idea yet. The story shifts the moment Haman walks in. Haman is one of those palace officials who clearly enjoys being important. Not just regular respect. He wants the dramatic, exaggerated, "I'll bow when I enter the room" kind of respect. And in the Persian Empire, someone like that usually gets it. Usually. Then there's Mordecai, a Jewish man. Calm, steady, not impressed by palace politics, and absolutely not bowing to Haman. This creates a problem. A big one. Haman treats respect like oxygen. So when Mordecai refuses to bow, he reacts with all the maturity of someone who gets into road rage fights for honor. In his mind, this is not a minor issue. It is a personal attack, an insult, a full dramatic offense. And then there's King Xerxes, the most powerful man in the empire, with the attention span of someone who accepts terms and conditions without reading a single line. He has total authority but very selective focus, which makes him the perfect person to approve things he probably shouldn't. Now the central situation becomes clear. Haman is furious with Mordecai. But punishing one man isn't enough for him. He wants to erase the entire group Mordecai belongs to. It's the fastest escalation in ancient history, from "one guy didn't bow to me" to "let's eliminate his entire people." 0 to apocalypse in 2 seconds. In modern terms, it's like blocking someone on social media, then blocking their whole neighborhood just to make a point. Haman presents his plan to the king in the most dramatic, manipulative way possible. There's a dangerous people living in the empire, he says. They have different customs. They don't follow the king's laws. It would be better, for everyone, if they simply disappeared. Xerxes listens, nods, and approves the whole thing without asking a single clarifying question. Just like that, a decree is written. A date is set. And the news spreads across the empire. A day of destruction is coming. Panic hits everywhere. Jewish families suddenly live under a countdown. Entire communities freeze in fear. And in the middle of the palace, where no one knows she's Jewish, stands Queen Esther. She is the only person with direct access to the king, the only one capable of interrupting the plan, the only one who can step into the danger instead of waiting for it. But nobody realizes the pressure building around her. Not yet. This is where the real dilemma begins, the one no one sees coming. Mordecai brings the truth to Esther with zero sugarcoating. If you stay silent, well, silence saves no one. And suddenly the quiet queen faces the loudest decision of her life. Inside the palace, no one knows Esther is Jewish. No one imagines she's connected to the people now marked for destruction. And the rule is painfully simple. No one walks into the king's chamber without being summoned, not even the queen. Doing that is a crime, a deadly one. So Esther's problem becomes clear. To save her people, she has to break the most dangerous rule in the empire and reveal who she really is, all at once. It's the kind of situation no training, perfume, or palace etiquette could prepare her for. If ancient Persia had an HR department, they would call this a high-risk meeting. But as it stands, Esther is preparing for what is basically the worst appointment ever scheduled. Show up without an invitation and hope the king doesn't have her executed. In modern terms, it's like knocking on the CEO's door without warning, knowing he can fire you and arrest you at the same time. The tension spreads fast. Mordecai asks the Jewish community to fast for 3 days. No food, no distractions. Everyone waiting for one woman to decide whether she's going to take the risk. Meanwhile, Esther prepares in silence. Not dramatically, just steady, focused, and fully aware of what might happen next. The entire city feels like it's holding its breath. Servants whisper. Advisors avoid eye contact. The palace atmosphere gets heavier by the hour, and then the iconic moment arrives. After the 3 days, Esther puts on her royal robes. She straightens herself, takes a slow breath, and starts walking. Not to a celebration, not to a ceremony, but to the one door everyone avoids unless called. The door that decides life or death based on the angle of a golden scepter. The palace guards freeze. Servants step aside. This is not a normal walk. This is a statement, a quiet one but massive. Coragem silenciosa nunca foi tão barulhenta. She reaches the entrance of the king's chamber. She stops. She steps in. And suddenly the room changes. Advisors turn their heads. The king looks up, surprised. After all the warnings, the fasting, the calculations, the fear, the silence, everything now depends on a single moment. The king sees her. Esther walks in. Xerxes doesn't order her execution. That's already the first miracle of the day. The king lifts the golden scepter, the official sign that she's safe, and asks what she wants. Everyone expects urgency, a dramatic request, some big reveal. But Esther doesn't reveal anything. She simply invites the king to a dinner. With her. And with Haman. Xerxes agrees immediately. Haman reacts as if he's been promoted to most important man in the empire. A private dinner with the king and queen? For him, this is peak prestige, maximum ego fuel, zero awareness of what's actually happening. At the dinner, the king asks again what Esther wants, and again she avoids the subject. She asks for another dinner. Tomorrow. It's the ancient Persian version of, let's talk tomorrow. Haman leaves the first dinner walking like he owns the palace. He feels untouchable, important, celebrated. Meanwhile, the audience knows he's basically standing on a trapdoor. The second dinner is where the entire story flips. The king repeats the question, what does she want, truly? Esther finally answers, I want to live, and my people want to live. Silence falls across the room. Xerxes freezes. Haman panics instantly. And suddenly everything becomes painfully clear. The group he convinced the king to destroy includes the queen herself. Haman tries to beg, to explain, to undo the disaster. But there's no undoing it. Every step he takes makes things worse. At one point he stumbles near Esther, trying to plead for mercy, and the king interprets it as an attack. Everything collapses for Haman at once, his status, his safety, his career. It's the ancient version of watching someone lose their job, their reputation, and their ID badge, all in the same afternoon. Xerxes orders his punishment. and the man who planned to erase an entire people becomes the one erased by his own plan. Then comes the official response. A new decree is written. The Jews receive the right to defend themselves. The countdown of fear becomes a countdown of hope. The story turns from absolute danger to complete reversal. But the real point isn't in the politics, the banquets, or the strategy. The real turning point started long before the second dinner. Esther never shouted. She never made a speech. She never led an army. But she changed the destiny of a nation. That alone already tells the tone of her story. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, nothing heroic in the traditional sense. Just a quiet woman in the right place, making a decision no one else could see. Looking back, everything starts small. The invisible girl becomes queen. The deadly enemy rises. The danger explodes across the empire. The silence around her gets heavy, and Esther risks everything simply by walking into a forbidden room. No sword, no army, no dramatic soundtrack, just a step, and another, and another. In a world obsessed with noise, her courage arrives in the lowest volume possible. It fits a truth that hasn't changed at all. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the decision no one notices, until everything has already changed. If this were modern life, it would be like sending the most important email of your entire career, and no one knowing anything about it until the outcome hits the whole company. The Book of Esther is not a story of power the way people expect. It's a story of responsibility landing in the lap of someone who never asked for it. Someone who didn't feel prepared. Someone who didn't want the spotlight. Someone who could have stayed quiet, but didn't. It's about choosing not to run even when running would have been easier. It's about stepping in at the exact moment when hesitation would have destroyed everything. It's about acting when the right action looks too small to make a difference. Most people imagine courage as a roar. Esther shows it can be a whisper. Her story doesn't exaggerate, doesn't glamorize, doesn't turn her into something she wasn't. She didn't give orders. She didn't threaten. She didn't force anything. She simply used the access she had, the moment she had, and the calm she had, and it was enough. The entire empire shifted because one person who wasn't supposed to matter, mattered. And now, the story closes where it began. Not with a shout, but with a quiet step forward, which leaves only one question for whoever's watching. Which story do you want to see simplified next? Daniel, Ruth, or Elijah?